So next we're going to hear from some staff here at the Trust. From the very beginning, it's always been important that we had a dedicated staff role, a main point of contact for the advisory group, so that we could really build up that trusting relationship together. It's been a real partnership that's allowed us to walk beside the group members so we can learn and grow together. Catriona has played this role since 2017, and we're delighted to have her back at work today following maternity leave. So in true Trust style, we're throwing Catriona right in at the deep end, and I'm going to ask her and Mhairi Reid to join me on screen and share some of their reflections on working with the group. Welcome to you both.
Hi.
And I'll just hand over to you.
Thanks, Carol. Hi, Catriona.
Hello.
So in the evaluation, there's numerous mentions of this participation lead, and that is you. And as Carol said, we're throwing you straight into the deep end. What are you, 5 hours back from that leave, and we're getting you onto a webinar?
I'll do my best.
I think it's helpful if we just start with an easy one. So tell me a wee bit about your role and also the work that you do with the advisory group.
Hi everyone. So my name is Catriona and I am Senior Evidence and Influencing Officer at the Trust. I've been at the Trust for 7 years now, I think. And as Carol mentioned, I took over working with the group in 2017. So a wee bit about my role. I'm really lucky actually. It's an extremely varied role, and it can be quite hard to kind of break this down. So I'll just give you a wee flavour of what my role has looked like over the past few years. So day to day, my work with the group could involve anything from developing a new grants initiative, such as Aspirational awards, to supporting them to write a presentation for a conference or an event, to supporting group members with their personal development. So looking at training courses, kind of identifying areas that they'd like to work on. And obviously co-producing the individual grants initiatives with the group has been a major focus of my work over the past few years. And in this, I would include refining the way in which we all work together in the most efficient way. As anyone who works in participation knows, things can change really quickly, and what works one day might not work the next. So developing our own approach to that has been really important. And just to touch on, I think the more hidden part of this work is the time you spend kind of building and maintaining relationships with group members. And this I would include kind of making those phone calls just to check in, say hi, bombarding them with Facebook messages about meetings, and all the little things that are just really important. I think like sending birthday cards or congratulations cards when things are important things happen in their lives. So although my work with the advisory group is a major part of my role, I also have other work that I'm involved with at the Trust. So I'd say that over kind of the 4 years that I've been doing this work, that the time I've spent focused on the group fluctuates anywhere between 75% and 25% of my time. And kind of reflecting back on that, I think it changes depending on what stage the group is at, such as are new members joining, are people leaving, what work we have on, and whether we're in the middle of developing something new, because obviously that's going to be more intensive, and what support I can provide based on the needs of the group, and also kind of balancing the other work that I have. Hopefully that's a wee bit of a flavour. But I've been off on that leave since December, and you've obviously taken on most of the work with the group. So what about you, Mhairi?
Yeah, so I guess my choice, my future, we were probably at that point when you left, and we were looking at inclusion and how to kind of widen that. So there was quite a bit of work done on that, you know, with people like Lindsay and Emma at the Trust, but also with some partners like In Control Scotland and Aberlour and staff. So they did reach out to some new people for that grants initiative, which was great. They've also been assessing and supporting the legacy initiatives that the Trust is developing before we finish up in March. And they've obviously been working alongside Matter of Focus and Media Co-op on the evaluation, which I think the evaluation, it does, for me, really explain the kind of depth and breadth of the work that we do together, you know, and the impact that it's had on all of us personally, but also in the organisation. What have been the big highlights for you, Catriona, then around this work?
So hard to pick, but if I had to pick two, I think the first one would be kind of an early memory, and that was the group being invited to speak at the Association of Charitable Funders conference down in London. And I picked that because that was a real goal of the group. They really want to influence others. They want others doing this work. They want to share what they've been doing. So I think being invited down to speak about our work with Aspirational Awards, that was a real win. And I think it gave the group real encouragement for the work that they were doing, because it's kind of, right, we're doing the right thing. People are interested in this work. So that's definitely a highlight for me. And the second one I would pick is our work on Keep Well Fund. The group developed this scheme obviously in response to the pandemic, and it was really important to them that we were as responsive as possible, i.e. do this as quickly as humanly possible. And also that we stuck to our values of trusting young people. And we developed it at a time of real uncertainty, where we were all trying to adjust to working from home and working with the group in this virtual way. So it was a lot to do, but I was so proud of the group. It was bringing together all of the learning that we'd got from Aspirational Awards, from all the work we've done together, and it just felt like a really strong moment as a group, and working in this way can make such a big difference.
That's cool. I like that, adjusting to working from home, and Sky comes in right on cue in the
Sorry.
It's brilliant.
Maybe you can hear it.
That's good timing. So I think, for me, in terms of highlights, amidst all of the kind of achievements that you've mentioned, the residential for me that we did back in January in 2020 really stands out, because it was before COVID or this pandemic was even on our radar. And when I look back on it now, I'm so grateful for that time, because I think all that sort of hard work that we did together was great. They made decisions, as Sarah said. They interviewed all the potential evaluators, and picked one. They did decision making in the final round of Aspirational Awards. They did work planning, but also we just kind of cooked dinner together and, sat on the couch, put our slippers on, got a fire on. I got to know them. I hadn't had that chance to spend that time with them yet. And now when I look back on it, I realise that I wouldn't have been able to do the work that I've done with them since you've gone off on mat leave, had I not had those relationships built at that point in time. So it really does stand out, because you kind of need to have spent that time with them to then be able to just pick up the phone, and also to really tough work on Zoom together. So co-production, it's not easy, is it? It's so rewarding, but it's not easy. We have to be honest about that. So let's reflect a wee bit on that, some of those challenges. Have you found aspects of the work to be challenging, or are there some difficult aspects that you would pick out?
Yeah, I think firstly, just to agree with you, that it's the most rewarding and fulfilling role you could have. I absolutely love it. And I feel so privileged that they let me into their group, because it's very much their space. But yeah, there are challenges. And I think, for example, just in terms of the participation work, it can be lonely if there's just the one of you. So I think we realised quite early on that if one person was leading this work, that they would need some dedicated support to do it well. And ideally, if resources would allow, that you could have two people there, especially at meetings. I think this is where it comes really important, is that it sounds really obvious, but so that one person can set up all of the things that the group love about the meetings, getting their favourite snacks, putting teas and coffees, and you've got one person there who can kind of have undivided attention to catch up with the group. I think that's kind of really important. And I'd also just say that this work also involves spinning a lot of plates and needing to be flexible and pretty comfortable with uncertainty. For example, we're never quite sure who's turning up to a meeting until 1 hour before, and you learn to get used to it. But there's also no room for any egos. The group will make sure that that's done pretty quickly in the kindest way possible. But yeah, you have to be aware of that. And finally, I'd just say that another challenge is needing to push others around you to fully invest in co-production, and to always have young people there when important decisions are being made. I think it's really easy for this to feel like a luxury when time is against you. But I think just keep reflecting on where you're at and where you want to be. I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I was reflecting on some of the challenges. Yesterday I was in a session on Matter of Focus, and I guess, for me, I found it quite eye-opening when I joined the Trust, because I had worked at big public bodies before, and, I was used to kind of a lot of policies and processes, I suppose. and things taking, quite a long time to happen. So I found it quite eye-opening, the pace at which things happen. Obviously the trust, there's safeguarding in place, and everybody will always be kept safe, but we do take risks, and we always kind of, when young people suggest stuff, we try to find a way to make that happen, so we're not scared of that possibility of looking back and saying, well, it didn't quite work out the way we thought it would, but we've learned from it and let's reflect on it. So, but that takes a bit of getting used to. It's totally exhilarating, but it can also be a wee bit scary. I guess, like, thinking about, when I first joined the trust, I thought, wow, this stuff's incredible. There's so many kind of bits of gold dust out there. How do we capture this, with an evaluator in an evaluation? And you'll see the outputs now that, we're going to watch the film and the evaluation's published. You've been so close to this work. What kind of impact do you hope that these outputs will have?
Yeah, I know it's amazing seeing all of this come together at this point in time. But I think in terms of impact, obviously the legacy of the trust is up there, and I think specifically getting more people to do co-production in this way and taking what we've learned and doing it better. And I think that's what the group want. That's why they're involved in this work. They want young people at the heart of decision making. So in terms of impact, that's my number one. If I could be greedy and ask for more, then getting funders to fully commit to participatory grant making and seeing the value in investing in individual grants. I think we've seen that come through time and time again. So I'd really like to see that. And I think in terms of impact, just kind of touching on what Helen had said before, it's really easy to dismiss the impact on us. So for me, just doing this work has been the highlight of my career. And I think looking forward, it's completely changed the way that I see myself in my own work, but also the work I want to do in the future. So I want to make that really clear that the impact is wider than the work the group do, the impact of the group, it's for all of us. Oh, and one more. In terms of the wider context for young people with care experience, I really hope that this helps to propel work around the promise and all the reframing work that's going on.
That's great. Yeah, I totally agree with that last one. If you're looking for something to help challenge stigma, you can't really get better than the outputs from this evaluation, and you can see the work that can happen when you sit side by side with young people with care experience. And I'm going to be greedy too. I can honestly put my hand in my heart and say that working with advisory groups it's been a life-changing experience, and working with you too. It's without a doubt changed my perspective on what's possible, and I've learned so much from you about the pacing of things and how to time stuff and when to pick up the pace and when to slow it down. So thank you so much for teaching me stuff too, Catriona. And also thanks for doing this in your first day back. It was a total pleasure.
So sorry about the barking dog.
Oh, not at all. It was even better having Sky as part of it. I do wonder though, like, we've thrown you back into this, maybe you've had a more easier life in the past 11 months. So to everyone else, please get in touch with us if you'd like to speak to Catriona or myself. We'll put our details in the chat. And Carol, we're just going to hand back to you now.
Big thanks to Catriona and Mhairi, and a special shout out to Sky the dog, who was making our presence felt there. I think you'll have picked up from that chat that the personal and professional growth that comes from working in this way is huge for everyone concerned. You don't necessarily need specific qualifications. It's more about having an open mind and a willing heart. And this will be key to realising the promise for children, young people and families in Scotland in the years ahead.